Hello guys, it's Theo Goff here, host of the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. Now today we're doing an episode and answering a very interesting question. Are there any other language-based learning disabilities besides dyslexia? And the answer may surprise you. Guys, I hope you enjoy today's episode. And yeah, I'm going to say see you all again soon, but you can see me in today's episode. I'll see you then. So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe, where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be? Or in other words, conquer their dyslexia. That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. What's happening, guys? Today we're diving in and asking about the question: are there any learning disabilities apart from dyslexia, like any more ones? Now I want to dive in this question and talk about it. And so dyslexia is easily classed as a learning disability. I personally know that's not true because of what a learning disability is, the definition of it, and when you look at dyslexia and the learning capabilities of that. And so the first thing I have is explain what is a learning disability? A learning disability is when you are disabled, when you cannot learn something. But dyslexia isn't that. Dyslexia means you can learn something with the right coping strategies, with the right teaching methods. That's different than what's in the standard classroom. That's more multi-sensory, that you can do things that engage more story thinking. And that's kind of like how a dyslexic people can learn. But say, okay, what are other learning disabilities despite dyslexia, apart from dyslexia? And yes, there are. Class-wise, there's dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and ADHD. Dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and is another one? I think it might be one. I'm trying to think. And ADHD. And these things, some of them, people may say they're learning disability. I don't think ADHD is classed as a learning disability. But people may say it massively affects your learning, and it does. 100% it does. Now, this is with people who have got proper. I want to call it proper ADHD, but it could be diagnosed as more severe ADHD, where you have to take medication. And these are the things where, it does impact your learning a lot. So does dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is a problem with numbers. Basically, I personally don't have dyscalculia because I feel unjustified explaining it. Because I don't have it. I don't know the experience of it. But how, when counting this, it doesn't really make sense. It's like, okay, how does this and this add up? It's like telling the time is very, very almost impossible. And and counting it in a linear way, things can seem very, very hard, very, very challenging. It must be like a non-dyslexic explaining what dyslexia is and why they can't learn about, how these words fit together. And it makes so much sense for a non-dyslexic person, but then for a dyslexic person, it doesn't make any sense. That's what is for numbers. It's like for someone who hasn't got dyscalculia, it makes perfect sense. But for someone who has got dyscalculia, it makes no sense. And that's kind of what it is. It's like dyslexia for numbers. And then there's another thing called dyspraxia. Now, I personally believe I've got a slight little trait of dyspraxia. And now what it is where you basically feel very clumsy. Basically, you have low kinesthetic awareness. Kinesthetic is like your body. And you fall over a lot of times, and you can't get your balance, and you do things. You're bad at throwing balls, bad at kind of playing a sport, and sometimes you get very confused at limbs and stuff. I remember my friend Oliver out on a trip. I'm actually living in his house at the moment. He's stuck in England. He's got all three: dyslexia, dyspraxia, and dyscalculia. I always like to say I'm more severe, but he's got more like variety. Anyway, I remember like we both have a bit of background in boxing, so it's like quite cool. I remember we were both at this like martial arts place, this Thai boxing place here in Thailand, and we were kind of getting in our boxing stance, doing that, and it's kind of saying like left, right, and Oliver couldn't quite connect his left to his right or quite know it, or quite when he had to turn, move his leg, and what leg to move, and he had to get like I had to touch it, like this leg, touch his leg to move it. And so there was a bit more, like, if a verbal commands couldn't do it. If I say, move this leg, and I tapped it, it would make sense. Yeah. So yeah, for example, ADHD, lose focus very easily, okay? Like I said, that how can affect learning very, very, very much. But also with, dyslexia, how kind of like, if I tell you something verbally, it's quite hard to link the verbally to what part of the body to do something. But if I tap a part of the body, say, move this, it makes it a lot more easier, because I don't tap your leg, say, move this, and you end up moving your arm. So it's a lot more easier doing that tapping thing. But so, and also, like, ADHD can class that as a learning disability, because it can inhibit your way of learning because of focusing very hard, because of all these different things. And I personally, I don't like the term disability, learning disability, because disability is like a cap, disability is like a limitation. But how I believe it's used here with dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and ADHD is that dyslexia is used in a term to make different of. The way you learn it when you're ADHD does not conform to the school environment. The way you learn when you're dyslexia, and dyscalculia does not conform to the school environment. But if you learn it in different ways, different techniques, different systems in place, more designed for us, we will be able to learn at a much more better rate. And that's not a disability, that's a different way of learning. And it's a very, very different way of learning. It's very common to have different ways of learning, but it's just ours are slightly more maybe unique than everyone else. And also, we have these things, and we have these things like these labels put on us about dyslexia, ADHD, dyscalculia, and dyspraxia. And sometimes we believe, we have this label on us, and then we can blame all the things. You mean our focus all the time on it, our reading all the time on it, or our writing all the time on it. And sometimes we can be getting caught. I get caught in this loop all the time, getting caught in this loop of making it outside ourselves. This isn't my problem, it's because of my ADHD, it's because of my dyslexia. And what has really helped me do the things I want to do is having a belief saying, okay, I will not let it stop me. I will not let my dyslexia stop me. I will not let my ADHD stop me, my dyspraxia, my dyscalculia stop me. And when you say that, when you know that inside yourself, you do whatever it takes to find a solution to the problem. If it's at school, you can't focus in lessons, say, I have to learn this. How am I going to learn this? And you do this, for example. I know, diet plays a massive role. Focus plays rest plays a massive role. Nutrition plays a massive role. Organization plays a massive role. And if you set certain things up, do certain things, it has a massive different impact in your life. And I remember there's a story, I keep on forgetting the name, I should learn it. And basically, I think it's this dude in America who's a very, very top person at helping people with ADHD. And anyone can go to him in any sessions, and basically what he does, he speaks to them and gets them so passionate about something, gets them to feel so much more pride in improving something they want to improve, like it's a sport, like it's a skill, like it's a hobby, and get them to feel loads of pride in that. And then once they feel so much pride, so much accomplishment, they can feel like they have so much more self-control on things, feel like they can do so much more, feel like they set so much more priorities for themselves. And I remember for me, that's what I felt a lot when I massively improved my confidence. It felt so cool. It felt so amazing. And when I felt like that, and I felt like, okay, I can improve something, then it's like, okay, I have the choice, I can choose to improve things. Then it's kind of like, okay, what do I choose to improve next? And where do I direct that laser focus? But so I think a big part of it is develop that confidence behind it. Once you develop the confidence, like you can improve anything, and then really choosing where you can point that laser. And it is like a laser. It's a bit like, you mean close to like a really mad focus and really mad obsession where you're willing to do what everyone else isn't willing to do to improve things. And that's a bit about how you can stay away from the norm. So anyway, guys, I did want to pop on here and leave a little message about the different learning disabilities in the world. There are 4 main ones: dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, and dyslexia. Now, dyslexia and ADHD are the most common, but dyspraxia and dyscalculia are still there. And by the way, you don't there's new research, new things coming out, meaning you don't just have to you can still be dyslexic and yet find it hard for reading and writing. No, so you find reading and writing not as big of a challenge, but you still have the other challenges that dyslexics have, like organisation, losing things all the time. And all of that is part of the dyslexic experience. So guys, there's a lot more diverse than just having these labels and these clean-cut definitions of the labels. There's a lot more of an umbrella technique. We can have some and not the other one. And I like to say dyslexics is an individual as people. Because dyslexia is people, it's not a definition. We aren't born into a definition. The definition is explained to try and describe us. And sometimes we have a misunderstanding of the definition and then a misunderstanding on explaining people, if that makes sense, guys. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you all again soon. Bye. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Now, I got something really exciting I want to share with you. Over the last 5 years, I've been absolutely obsessed with learning everything I can about dyslexia and how they can overcome their challenges and maximize their strengths. And I've been spending many hours on many days scouring the internet to find solutions to the problems. And I found many solutions. So over quarantine, I was thinking, what if I scour the internet again? What if I go through every last resource that I've been through before and take everything that's useful and put it into one place? And that's how I filled up a lot of my time in quarantine. I scoured the internet and found all the most inspirational, all the most informational, all the most useful videos about dyslexia out there and put them all into one place, so you don't have to waste time scouring the internet to find solutions to your problems, so you know there's only one place to go. And this thing I created is called the Dyslexia Black Book. You can get it at conqueringdyslexia.net/Black Book. Now, I'm wanting to offer this to you and present this to you completely for free because I want to save you time. I want to save you time so scouring the internet and not finding the answers like I've done. If you go to conqueringdyslexia.net/Black Book, Conquering Dyslexia Black Book, you'll find it. Or guys, you can just click the link in this episode description to find it. But yeah, guys, that's the special message I wanted to share with you today.